Okay, I admit the thumbnail for this video was a little clickbaity and a little goofy, but I figured with everything that's going on in the world right now, we could use a little bit of levity. So here we are. If you read the title, you know this video is about vermiculture or raising worms. We're gonna populate our bed that we made in the last video with worms that Yoda got me today. All right, so let's do this. Hey everybody, welcome back to Grumpy Acres. Like I said, we're gonna put worms into the worm bed today. So first, let's talk about bedding. We need bedding for the worms. So what I did was I took a bunch of shredded up newspaper and paper, and there's some cardboard in here, and I filled the bottom of the bed. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna wet that down so it's damp. And it needs to be wet enough so that it's like a damp sponge. So when you wring it, you should only get like 1 or 2 drops of water. Now, Angela, when she went shopping today, she found this. This is Fraybill Super Grow worm bedding. It's out of Canada, and apparently it's what nightcrawler and red wriggler farmers, I guess they're ranchers, aren't they? Not really farmers, but people that grow worms for the bait industry, this is what they use for bedding in their worm beds. You don't have to spend the money on something like that. You can do it just as well with the newspaper, shredded up paper, and the cardboard. I'm gonna go get the water and hose this down and get it damp. You'll see the water's pouring out. I'm filling this up, and the dog's in the way. But I'm filling this up, and all that excess water is flowing out the bottom like it's supposed to. Now, one thing we want to make sure we avoid in our bed is standing water. We don't want the worms to drown in it. Now this is really damp. It's damper than it should be. Watch. So that's too much water in the bottom of it, but I've got that worm bedding, and so I'm going to put that on top so the worms will be okay. All right. Speaking of worms, Angela went to one of the local greenhouses, and they had bait. They had bait worms. So we've got 1 dozen in each one of the packages, giant Canadian night crawlers. So those will be really good out here. So let me get the bedding in there, and we'll put the night crawlers in, and we'll give them some food. I'll talk about the food we're feeding them. Now this worm bedding is nothing more than shredded up newspaper. It's finely shredded. That's the exact medium we want them to be in. Now you can also use coffee grounds as bedding too. They will get in there, and they will use it as a food source. All right, I gotta wet this stuff down, so I'm gonna use some of that water that flowed out in the bucket. We'll get it wet, and we'll get the worms in there. There's a great big crack in the bottom of that bucket. So this is what we've got. That's what the worms look like. Oh, there's some big healthy ones too. All right, there's our worms. As you can see, they're in there. Look like they're pretty healthy. Now what I got to feed them is I've got a couple of chopped up apples and a carrot that's going bad. So we're just going to put this food right in here with them. Now I'm going to close up the top. All right, let's talk about why we're doing this. So worm castings have been called the plant superfood. It's some of the best organic fertilizer you can use for your plants. And once the worms get going, it's virtually free. We ended up, between the worms and the worm bedding, it ended up costing about $20. And like I said, you don't have to spend that money. You can go dig the worms up yourself, and you can use nothing but shredded newspaper and cardboard and coffee grinds. We're going to go up to one of the local coffee houses and see if we can't get some grinds to fill this up a little bit more here in a couple of days. Let's talk about some of the benefits of using worm castings. Number one, it makes the soil more absorbent. It literally helps the soil hold the water. The next one is it introduces beneficial microbes into the soil, which help digest all the biomatter that's in there. Because of all the nutrients that the worm castings give, it helps with germination of seeds and starts. Another thing it'll do is it will help remove heavy metals from the soil. The more worm castings, the more worms you have, the less heavy metals you're going to have in your soil. The worms and the worm castings will also speed up decomposition. That's the beneficial microbes, and the worms themselves will speed it up because they're eating all that organic matter. Another thing that castings will help is certain types of pests and plant diseases. Crown rots specifically are a good one. And because the soil is more absorbent, it helps the plant become more drought resistant because it holds water longer and it releases it when the plants need it in time of no water. And finally, the worm castings, once all the nutrients have leached out of the castings themselves, they act as a good addition to your soil. It makes your soil healthier and better structure. It helps with the soil structure is what it does. Okay, what to feed them? As you can see, we fed ours some apple slices and some carrot. And what you want to feed them is fruits and vegetables. You don't want to feed them any dairy or any meat. They can't process it. It'll just rot in the ground, and it will attract other pests that you don't want there, like flies and such. So fruits and vegetables, grass clippings will work. Coffee grounds work if you're a coffee drinker. If you have unbleached coffee filters or tea bags, throw the whole thing in there. Like I said before, go up to your local coffee shop and see if you can get some coffee grounds from them. They've got a whole bunch, and it usually just goes in the trash. Now I went back and I looked, and it turns out that the worms will double in population size every 2 weeks about. And depending on the size of the bin you're using, you could be harvesting worm castings as quickly as 2 months, which will be great because that'll make it right about the time that the hot weather crops are going in, and just perfect for us right here. So we're not going to get enough out of this bin to fertilize the whole lawn, but we'll be able to take a little bit and put a small amount around each plant and in the pots that we're going to put starts in. So it's going to work. It's going to work out well for us. They're pretty low maintenance. We just got to make sure that we keep their bedding moist. If you've ever done this before or you have any questions, I'm not an expert, but I can always look it up, and if I don't know the answer, I'll see if I can't find somebody that does know the answer. All right? So, comment below. Hit that thumbs up if you like this type of content. Hit the notification bell. We'll have more updates on the worms and the garden and all the other stuff that we cover. Most importantly, I want you guys to go out and live a life done free. All right, take care. Thanks, Milo.